Hey everybody, welcome to the Engadget Podcast for the week of October the 28th. This particular Engadget Podcast is brought to you by Chevrolet. They are dedicated to pushing the boundaries of automotive innovation, providing cleaner, more efficient, and better connected vehicles to enhance your driving experience. Chevrolet, find new roads.
Yay.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Engadget Podcast for the week of October the 28th. I said that part already. We'll fix that. We'll fix that in post. Dana on my far right. Hey Dana.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. Welcome back.
Thanks. It was a good day away.
Yeah.
From Engadget. Joseph, welcome.
Spooky Halloween to you.
I see you've dressed up as Ben Gilbert for Halloween.
You have.
I have.
That's
also,
a good point.
My grandfather. I'm also a serial killer.
Your famous serial killer grandfather Ben Gilbert.
Right, because they look just like everybody else.
Yeah, I feel like Ben Gilbert
Looks like
could be a serial killer, might one day be a grandfather.
he has the anger for it, and he will probably beget a line. So.
Cool. A lot of stuff to talk about. I'm trying not to rub my hands in front of the microphone, John. I apologize for that. I've done it already within the first minute of the program.
Just rub them on your thighs like everybody else.
I've been away. I've been away too long.
Yeah, but you haven't distressed enough.
I missed it. I was pretty distressed.
You know what I think you need?
What's that?
An Epsom salt bath.
You've been talking about that all day.
I have.
Other than making you sound incredibly old, what does an Epsom salt bath do exactly? Is it good for the gout?
I'm not really sure. All I know is that my mom and my aunts always recommended it, and they would always say, but don't get too relaxed because then you'll pass out and drown.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a good tip for baths in general, or just bodies of water.
I mean, that's how Whitney Houston died, right?
Well, there are a few other factors there.
Oh, okay.
Like
I thought it was the
cocaine,
Epsom
crack,
salts.
Yeah, like my
Vicodin.
grandmother always said, Epsom salt baths are great, just don't take crack before
It's a common rule of thumb. It is a common rule of thumb.
Crack bath.
Right.
That could be a thing.
A crack bath,
right?
sure. Yeah, it might burn a little.
Not if you're on crack.
I guess not. It might be really relaxing.
Wanted to start things off. Lots of big news coming out of
Gugara.
Mountain View. I was gonna say.
Yeah, Gugara.
Gugaren?
Gugara.
I don't even know what you're.
Gugara.
You're making baby sounds.
No, that's the name of the company.
Gu-
Gugara. Gugara. You do a Gugara search and things
I don't
like
know
that.
what you're saying.
Gugara.
Why are you saying it like that?
I don't know.
Why are you saying it like that?
I don't know. I'm trying to be difficult.
Okay, well, you're succeeding.
Yay.
You don't have to try to be difficult.
I know.
Joseph.
It's just effortless, isn't it?
Android 4.4 KitKat is I would say the big news.
It's huge.
Huge news.
It was breaking.
Oh, jeez.
I did
Wah,
it.
Give me a
wah.
break.
I know. Hit me. Give me a break. I should try.
We've already heard bits and pieces of it coming out, and I have to say, in past iterations, nothing that I'd heard maybe too particularly excited about it. Some parental control, some other smaller things here and there. But I think really the big news here is the fact that they're going to they're going to try to roll it out across the fleet, which is huge. For
Well, that's a technicality. I mean, that's their intention.
Yeah, no, I said try. I said
Right.
they're going to try.
But it's not up to them.
It's going to be difficult. I think it probably has a better chance than any other past version of the
You think
operating
so?
system. Absolutely, I do. It's going to be a little bit lighter. It's going to handle budget software a little bit better, which I think has really been the big problem here, right? Is that obviously they can't control what OEMs are doing,
Right.
what version they're actually installing, but a lot of the hang-up that's there, I think, in the past have been that budget Android handsets, budget Android tablets have been incredibly popular, and they haven't necessarily been equipped to run the latest version of the operating system.
That and heavy skinning.
Yeah.
Which we're going to come back to
dirty, heavy
later
skinning.
in the podcast.
Sure, I'll talk about heavy skinning.
Yeah.
It's-
Dana and I
it's gonna-
indulge in that a lot.
It's going to come up again later when we talk
You
about
think
it.
heavy skinning has been one of the major problems as far as rolling out.
Yeah,
Well,
because a
fragmentation.
product like
Yeah.
the HTC One, you can't just
Upgrade
one does
it
not
back
just
end.
update it to KitKat. You
One does not just update the kit.
no, it means updating Sense for it. Also, same for TouchWiz. Same for the crazy, really overbearing Android alterations that Lenovo has going on. It's all going to have to get updated.
But at the same time, like things like S Pen support, those are things that Samsung has to put on top as an additional
Sure.
layer. That's not baked in. So it does have its merits. But yeah, in the case of like Lenovo, it's completely unnecessary.
Well, skinning makes sense. I mean, I keep coming back to this, but skinning makes sense. If I'm a manufacturer, I want to add some cool things to the software.
Or
right?
if you just want to feel as though your status is a bit more elevated than just hardware maker, because there really is.
It's getting harder and harder to distinguish yourself, I think, on the hardware end at this point. I mean, you know, and this has been a problem all along. People are making handsets out of basically the same components, but, you know, you get to a certain resolution, you get to a certain thinness, you get to a certain speed where maybe a slight boost doesn't really make that big of a difference. So one of the ways to innovate is on the software end, and when you've got all this really diverse swath of manufacturers making things on the same operating system, that's a way to set yourself apart.
Sure.
Obviously, the problem there, though, is that they've been doing that. A lot of manufacturers have been doing that to the detriment of actually making a usable device. I mean, that's an issue. But I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense if I'm a hardware manufacturer that I want to skin it. But I think this is an important step for Google. I think they recognize that fragmentation is indeed a problem. I mean, there are handsets still shipping with like ice cream sandwich on them at this point.
I would assume so. I'm not aware of any, but I'm sure in China you could find some.
Were you guys surprised by how fairly modest an update KitKat is? Just because they must have had to pay through the nose to make this partnership with Nestle.
I don't know if they did. I don't think they paid.
You don't think they paid?
I don't think any money changed hands, and if it did, I think Nestle paid them.
I think this is what it was. They knew their naming scheme was coming up. Somebody was like, look, it's going to be released around Halloween. We'll partner with KitKat. They'll get incredible publicity from this. We'll time it. We'll throw it out on the same day. It's just like a nice little bundle. It was just a really genius marketing ploy, right?
Yeah.
They generate, and look at I think they were intentional leaks. Like, we've seen everything about the Nexus 5 to the point where we could have skipped this event today and we would have known exactly what it was. And the same thing with
It was nice to actually see it and touch it.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, the hands-on. But I mean, in terms of like knowing what it was.
Nicole had anything better to do.
Well, I mean, but personally,
what was she doing on a Thursday that she couldn't be?
I'm completely unenthused by it. And also, KitKat to me just seems like Google now going after the same territory that Microsoft was shooting for with Windows Phone from the start.
How's that?
Which was they made their OS so it was light enough to run on devices with 512 megabytes of RAM. Mm-hmm. Right? That's now what KitKat is optimized for, so it can run across. That's hugely important for them. And also BlackBerry was going after that with the BlackBerry 10 OS for the emerging markets. So it's clear that that's the direction they're going in, and that.
There's two big differences there, though. I mean, there's one big difference there, which is Android is an incredibly successful operating system.
I mean, this is the last gasp for Windows
nations.
Phone and BlackBerry.
So, and what did he say? This is the
next billion
users. Everybody knows that emerging markets are going to be huge. I mean, these are quickly becoming a lot of people's primary computers, smartphones. And people, lots of people in Africa don't necessarily have a laptop, but it's getting more and more that they'll have access to these devices. So, I mean, the quote makes a lot of sense. There are going to be probably 1 billion users in the next, I don't know, I'm just projecting here, 10 years or something like that. Totally random number.
That's a Brian Heater statistic.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's from my analyst group. But there's going to be a lot of new users. I think Android probably has a better chance of appealing to those users than anybody else. Microsoft's got a little bit of a leg up in that they own Nokia.
Sure.
So, and Nokia has a pretty big footprint outside of the U.S. and certainly in developing nations. But I don't think anybody has as good of a chance of going up against developing nations as Android.
Yeah.
So, I think this is a big play for them. But I agree with you from the standpoint that there's nothing that I've seen so far that gets me really excited. I mean, there's extra, there's like some extra camera support, things like that. I mean, that was a big part of the Nexus 5. Everybody's putting better cameras out. But beyond making it a little more elastic for budget devices, it's not a super exciting
it's a pretty modest update. Yeah.
And also, I think it's kind of bizarre. I know Brad sort of broke this out, and we're waiting for confirmation, but according to a support page for Google in Spain, they're saying that the Samsung Galaxy Nexus will not be receiving KitKat, which is, no me jode, okay? No me diga, Google. That's not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. See?
That's a phone from what, 2011?
I believe so, yeah.
So it's not even that old.
No, it's not that old.
I could see where maybe the original Galaxy S wouldn't get it, or the Nexus 1.
I mean,
Right,
ba-
right. The
based
Galaxy
on the
S
sound,
definitely,
based on the
that's fine.
sound, based on what they're saying about this, I mean, it should. I mean, anything with firepower of
Right, and that's what's
any
confusing
Galaxy
about it.
device should be able to get this. Yes, I mean, but there's no confirmation on why it won't be getting it. Where's this rumor coming from? This is the first time hearing about it, but I don't really read the site.
That's really good.
Mark's not watching,
It was
is he?
coming from a Spanish support page, apparently.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well,
So I don't know. We're gonna see. We'll find out what's happening.
Brad's Spanish is shaky at best.
Yeah. So, yeah. Considering he's.
This came from Engadget Spanish, I assume.
I'm not. I saw it as we were coming down here, so
Okay.
don't have
No
too much.
confirmation on that.
Well, we're waiting on the confirmation, but it's from a Spanish support page from Google. So
I would
that's
be shocked if any of the Galaxy devices didn't get.
That's how I feel, but you know.
What are your thoughts on the Nexus 5?
Here's my thoughts on the Nexus 5. I mean, I found
It's
the
a nice looking device.
It is, but I found the G2 much more exciting. At least a lot more thought was put into the LG G2, which has basically the same sort of, it's same on spec level. It's the same. It's got like the Snapdragon
Right, this is no
800.
buttons on the back.
Right, and I like. I like that there was at least hardware innovation on the LG's end where they were saying, you know, this is how people hold the phone. It actually will change how you interact with the phone. It's much more intuitive. I just sort of feel like this is like a meh. Here's another. I love the price. I think that's great, but
That's kind of the story, though,
right.
right?
That is the story. Sure.
Nexus devices maybe aren't as exciting as they once were.
Yeah, they used to be, but I guess now it's just like a really low cost way to buy directly.
This might point to what we were saying before. This might be Google saying, "Hey, look at what a great device you can make on a budget."
I think what
4.4.
listeners at home should know is that Joseph is carrying the Moto X as his daily driver. So
Yes.
Joseph already has a phone that's really good for its price, which
Sure.
might explain why you're not rushing out to get this in addition. You've already got a great mid-range device, and presumably you're on contract, right?
No, I've been off contract for a very long time.
Okay, but still, the Moto X2 is not
Right, and they've
a
dropped
hugely...
it. They've dropped the price now.
So
to
that
100.
explains why Joseph isn't that excited. I am not on the Moto X, and I would be more excited about the Nexus 5 if it did work on Verizon, which my understanding is
It does not.
it doesn't. But if
Yeah.
it would work on Verizon,
Yeah.
Well, they
Yeah.
said that they're working on future products, which means we'll see some sort of, God knows,
It's
droidish
crazy
thing.
that we're still seeing exclusivity at this point, right? I mean, what is?
Well, it's because of
We've
I
moved
mean,
away from it certainly, but what?
But anybody who has the Galaxy Nexus on Verizon knows the updates have come like months later than they've been released from Google, and it was supposed to be a pure pipeline, right, for those updates, and there've been problems like compatibility
Yeah.
issues. You can just, I mean, if we had Terrence on here, he could probably ramble for like hours about this.
shout? I think
Yeah.
is probably.
yeah.
what
And
we're
I think,
looking for.
correct me if I'm wrong, but the new Nexus 7 still has not been certified to run on Verizon's network with LTE, correct?
That's okay. I mean, it's just maybe I'm underestimating
Well,
the need for a cellular tablet.
Well, no, but the thing is, there's the unlocked model in Google Play, which is supposed to support all of those bands, including Verizon.
You're saying it's just symptomatic of a bigger
Yeah,
problem with
yeah,
Verizon
exactly.
improving products,
I
which
think-
is surprising. I mean, why would Verizon not just be greenlighting all
Because
these
I think Verizon likes to think that they're more than a dumb pipe, and so they. I mean, look, they're coming out with this
Yeah, but the
rumored
Nexus
Ellipsis tablet.
7, the Nexus 5, these aren't dumb pipe products,
Yes,
right?
but that's. I mean, did you see that leak from earlier today that they're developing their own branded 7-inch tablet, which is effectively going up against something like the Nexus 7. So
You think that they're sacrificing Google products because they're making their own devices?
well, no, it is an Android product, the Ellipsis 7.
yeah, but
Allegedly.
Nexus products because they're making their.
I mean, there's no benefit to them. I mean, they have that whole ecosystem now going
I
on.
think
with,
I think there's
with
a benefit
with the
to-
media, with
for them.
broadband, content services.
There's a
wireless,
benefit for
landline.
bringing out all of the products people want. There's definitely. I mean, maybe it's more of a long tail benefit.
But I mean, this is traditionally how Verizon's operated. They have never given the most
They've
choice
gotten better.
ever.
They've gotten better, but I don't know. Do they seem to be backtracking a little bit to you?
No, I feel like they're doing. I think they relented initially with the Galaxy Nexus, and then maybe it was Google's decision. Maybe Google was like, I don't want to jump through all these hoops with you anymore, Verizon. and so we're just going to penalize you? I don't know. I know that was always Miriam Joire's suspicion, and that Google had enough of Verizon. But.
It's a damn shame because there are a lot of people like me on Verizon who would probably otherwise enjoy this phone.
Oh yeah.
At this point, if I get it, I'm getting it as the phone that I take with me overseas to press trips like Mobile World Congress and Computex. Do I need that nice of a phone for those trips? Maybe. I mean, who are we kidding? Maybe I do. But
yeah, I mean, you're at a phone show. You don't want people to make fun of you, Dana. I mean, that's right.
But normally I carry around a Sony Xperia phone on those trips, and it does start conversations. If only like, is that an Xperia?
Oh, the Xperia T.
Is that an Xperia T?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I feel that way.
What are you doing with your life?
What's your answer to that question?
It was free.
What's wrong with you, Dana?
That's what it was.
It was free.
It was free.
It was
free.
That's
fair.
Sony literally unloaded their entire inventory that year.
To MWC attendees, yeah.
So, sounds like a good budget handset. It's probably a good flagship device for.
It's budget priced. It's budget priced. It's not a budget handset. It's budget priced. Yeah.
Budget priced.
Yeah.
That's budget.
No, a budget handset would be. I don't know. It's like a Lumia.
I was saying it's a cheap handset. It's a handset on a budget. It's a budget handset.
But it has a Snapdragon 800 chip. That
It's not budget.
You can't call it a budget handset. But no, it's a good price.
And
I think you're making a false
false distinction.
Yeah.
But here's like a really interesting thing. So, I mean, the situation is probably very different.
It's a cheap
now.
and terrible handset. We can all agree on that, right?
On Play, bizarrely enough, the black 16 gigabyte model was the first to sell out, and the white was still plentiful, which I think is weird because everybody was always clamoring for white devices, especially like the white Nexus devices.
I don't
like
see color, Joseph.
I couldn't decide which one, and that's why I shut down and closed the buy page. I was starting to get indecisive. I was getting indecisive and frustrated with myself, which is why I closed out of the buy
I'm like
page.
2 seats away. If you need a purchase decision on impulse, you just grab my hand.
You get the white one, and you get a yellow case.
Right. Oh, you saw those cases? That looks really nice.
Yeah. You get it. Yeah. I mean that's what it always comes down to me is for me is it doesn't matter what friggin' color the phone is because it's
gonna cover it.
It's gonna be covered.
Which, speaking of my white Moto X, when flying out, I showed this to Dana, flew out of my hands the other day on the walk home. I mean, literally like frisbeed into the sidewalk, and because of the way it's weighted, it only dinged the top 2 corners and only minorly so, which made me very upset, and I had a breakdown. I recovered, and I thought maybe I should get a case.
Yep.
I've always been against it.
It also took me a long time to seriously ding up my Droid Razr M, and it's still even not that badly nicked.
Well, I'm a stupid idiot with an iPhone, so I need a case to protect that thing.
Yeah. Is that the 5S? Does it know your touch?
I mean, it knows my touch, but
I'm sure it knows your touch.
I mean, it's from
I know your
my
touch.
hands, yeah.
So is Dana,
but it doesn't have a
she
fingerprint
doesn't know
sensor.
your touch. She won't answer. She's pleading the fifth.
Let's talk about the iPad. Let's move on.
Yeah,
let's talk about the iPad. This is a great looking tablet. It's lighter. It's faster. It's thinner.
Surprise!
It's got a better
we
battery.
still like the iPad.
It's
still a good tablet.
It's pretty much everything save for a fingerprint scanner that you would want out of the new iPad.
I mean, that's all that Apple does now, right? They just make everything thinner and lighter, thinner and lighter, thinner and lighter.
That's all Apple does is make good devices.
I will say that
I didn't say it was good. I said it was thinner and lighter.
The nearly 3-hour jump in battery life is pretty nice. It's nice for users. It's also especially nice considering they made it thinner and
lighter.
It's 0.4 of a pound lighter.
It's I don't know. It seems like one of those reviews where you're like, oh, well, we've got to put some cons on. What cons can we possibly think of? Oh, it doesn't have that dumb fingerprint reader from the 5S, and oh, the Retina display is really great, but it could be better.
Not even that, but just that
higher
the competition has caught up. So
yeah.
And I said that in my review of the Retina display MacBook Pro, that it's a very nice display. We wouldn't change it per se. It's just that there are other nice displays that are very similar now.
Sure, which isn't, you can't really knock them for that.
You can't knock
because other people have nice displays now
No,
too.
it's not a con, but it makes it slightly less of a distinctive feature to consider when purchasing it. But you were right that we struggled a little bit to come up with
It's certainly come down to the point to the point where the only thing that's really distinguishing these devices is operating systems, right? I mean, there's several examples of devices on the Android side that are as good as the iPad right now. Maybe not as light at the moment. Probably, give it a month or two, and probably that will change.
There will be something lighter.
Well, and indeed, I think that's why at the end of our iPad Air review, it wasn't just a question of is this the best 10-inch tablet ever? It was also a question of, if you're going to get something with iOS, do you want this or the new Retina
Mini.
display? Yeah, the iPad Mini, which costs $100 less and has an even sharper screen and has the same processor inside, so it's going to be equally powerful.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
that was one of the bigger questions for us.
It's screen.
What did we decide? What was the answer
we
to
have
that
to
question?
we have to use the Mini.
Yeah,
first.
we haven't reviewed the other one, but it is going to be a tough choice for people, I think.
I think it's screen size. I mean, it makes sense to me that they're gonna have two flagship devices with different screen size.
Yeah.
It's depends on your usage, depends on how much you're carrying it, depends on how much time you're actually spending watching videos.
Well,
if you're a frequent traveler, you probably want the Mini. If you just have it at home all the time, the larger iPad makes sense.
Just in my personal opinion, I have a variety of tablets at home, different sizes. I always stick to the 7-inch form factor because I have the iPad 2 at home. It's old, and yes, iOS 7 has made it a bit more sluggish. And I have to force myself to use
Notice that too.
Right? I have to force myself to use it because it's too unwieldy for me. I have my Air, right? And I feel like if you want something of that size, you go with like a really thin, sleek laptop, you know? If you want like
I don't
a 10-inch,
think
if you want a 10-incher,
for
I
most
think you go
people
with
it's
an
a
Air.
choice between a laptop and a tablet. I mean, for most people those are very different
But
case
actually,
usages.
the people that I always hear, families or parents making the argument to me for wanting a 10-inch tablet is that they want something that's like a computer, and they wind up going out and buying all these covers. And
Well,
additional
sure, that's an
keyboards,
issue.
and then complaining that it doesn't function
that it
like
doesn't
a
do everything your
computer
computer wants to do. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I feel like if you have the 7-inch tablet, there it is. It's perfect size for e-reading, one hand. You can give it to a little kid, which is basically why families buy these things nowadays, right? As a babysitter.
But are
keep
you
it on the
saying
couch.
you're saying hey grandma, you should get an Air. All you have to do is spend $2,000 more, and you're gonna have this awesome device they'll do everything.
No,
you want.
I think for grandmothers, get them a 7-inch or an 8-inch tablet. I believe in the small. I think 8 inches is.
I'm
sort of
just
like the
saying if
peak
you
of
want a
tablet form
10-inch
factor.
screen, it doesn't always make sense to jump up to a laptop.
No, for the additional cost, and you may not need all those productivity.
That's why we have
add-ons.
choices.
I guess so. I want to go back to Soviet Russia where there was only one choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The terrible tablet. It's a terrible
It's a
tablet too.
terrible
That's
But it has
what
GLONASS.
happens. That's what happens.
Right,
when
that's GLONASS.
Yes.
Yeah, when socialism builds a tablet for you.
Exactly.
You can't please all the people all the time.
Oh wait, before we go on, I just wanted to throw this out there because I thought of this and I thought it was really smart.
Oh God!
Really,
If you're
really
making
smart.
if you're making a voice like that, it must be super smart.
Okay, so we're Kit Kat K, right? The next iteration will be L. Desserts, lollipop, Chupa Chups.
I don't know what that.
Bam, 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 pew, pew, pew.
I don't know.
Shooting
what
my
you're doing
guns.
with your hands.
Chupa Chups?
No.
The Spanish lollipops?
Mm-mm.
For realies?
For
For
real.
serious.
You don't know either? Oh, I do not
You
belong.
think it's gonna be a lollipop?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be lollipop.
What are licorice?
Licorice or lemon meringue. Licorice makes
Licorice
most
would be
people
good.
barf.
What?
And you can't tie into Twizzler. Tie into Twizzler.
Well,
yuck.
Twizzler would be for tea anyway.
Yeah,
You don't
exactly,
like
that's what I'm
licorice?
saying. No, I don't. My
You
mom
don't like
is
a
very
good.
big
You
on
don't like
black
a.
licorice.
Oh well, black licorice is disgusting.
But that's real
No,
licorice.
like a red vine.
That's not real licorice.
That's American.
No, that's corn sugar, as they call it
It's all corn syrup.
now. Not black licorice. That is some nastiness.
Well, that's why
you
it
get that
tastes
at like
disgusting.
the Chinese herbal
I'm just
shop,
saying all
and
good
it clears
candy
out
is
everything.
all good candy is full of high fructose corn syrup. That's not my fault.
That is a very good point.
I think
It's
licorice.
true.
I think licorice. You think lollipop?
I think
Dana,
lollipop.
L, lima bean.
Sorry, I got distracted by the candy bucket you have.
There's
don't-
nothing in there.
What?
Yeah, John.
Yeah,
you knew Dana
thanks.
was going to be in the room with
You
a
know what
jack
props
lantern.
are
You didn't
for
fill
on
it full of
Halloween?
candy.
Candy.
I think
Where's our
chocolate
Kit
would
Kat?
be-
Somebody go out to the Vendo. Guess.
Vendo.
The Vendo.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you
Anyway.
people call it in English? A vending machine?
yeah.
Okay.
L, Dana.
Oh, other than lollipop?
I said licorice.
Is for
Licorice.
the way you look at
Um,
me.
Licorice sounds. The problem with licorice is that we can't spell it. Like nobody knows how to spell licorice.
Lyco rice.
Yeah, but you're smart. I mean, I'm smart too, but it's
We're
not.
all
It's
smart.
it's very easy to misspell word. That would be a mistake, I think. Maybe.
It's also off-putting licorice. I think lollipop is fun to say.
Actually,
it's like cellar
actually,
door.
donut, right? Android donut.
Yeah, there was donut.
How do they spell it?
Oh, a D-O-N-U-T.
Yeah.
Yeah. They went with the.
They bastardized it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they're gonna do that, they might as well do red licorice.
Why are you pushing licorice?
I'm a licorice pusher.
You are. You were that bully. All right, let's move on, Brian.
I'm
This
working.
is a tech podcast.
When I say three times in a row, that means I'm segueing onto the next topic, which is the MacBook Pro with Retina display. Danny, you got to spend some time with that.
Oh yes, it's interesting. I mean,
That's a really great way to put it.
no. Well, the interesting thing here is, and I didn't
that it's
totally
terrible.
expect this
No?
going into the review, is that it turned into a question of not is this thing any good and is it a good product? It is, because the last one was good and this one costs less. It has better battery life. It has a faster processor, better graphics. That's all good.
But
No, not a but the question became not is this a good product, but should you get this or the MacBook Air? Which wasn't a question I necessarily expected to ask going into it, but I was asking by the end.
I think everybody who's bought a MacBook in the past couple of years has asked themselves that question.
The question is tougher now though, because the Retina display MacBook Pro is thinner and lighter than it was, and the battery life is almost on par with the MacBook Air, which is pretty stunning.
So you're saying previously you would have always recommended the Air over the Pro?
Not over the Pro, but it would have been easy to say who should buy which, because you could say, well, the Air is more portable and it has much better battery life, so if you're going to be on the go a lot, the Air is your best option. But now, if the MacBook Pro is that much more portable, and if the battery life is on par with the Air, a lot of people are going to say, if the battery life is 11 hours, I don't care that it's an hour shorter than the Air. And they're going to say, well, if it's about half a pound heavier, it's still pretty light, I think I can carry it. There's still going to be people who want one versus the other. There are people who will prefer the graphics or who are going to prefer the extreme portability of the Air, but there's a lot more overlap than there was before.
And there's going to continue to be. I mean, the Air is going to keep getting better.
I mean, I wonder at what point there's just going to be one.
Cannibalize it. Yeah, it's just going to.
When is there going to be just one ultralight laptop line that's also very powerful?
2 years.
You think so?
That seems like a pretty good estimate.
But they are cannibalizing. It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, you showed me the new MacBook Pro, and I gasped when I picked it up because I left my MacBook Pro at home for going to events and things. You know, we're overseas, you have to run around. Because the Air is just so much easier to hold in one hand and then jet off with the camera in your other hand and do whatever you have to. But I could actually, you know, if were going to trade up, I would get this MacBook Pro because to me, the advantages are there in terms of that.
I think it depends a little bit on your threshold for how heavy gadgets are. I still notice that the Air is lighter, but I think there are going to be plenty of people like you who say it's not a big difference, and it's not
really strong, Dana.
That's true. Yeah, you've got really strong back muscles.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the Air is just going to be kind of more of a niche product for most people anyway. I don't think most people are, you know, jet setters the way strong back muscled Joseph Volpe is.
Oh, that's very sweet of you.
I don't think you know, people are necessarily bringing their laptops with them.
Unless they bring the price down for the Air at some point. It's, you know.
Yeah.
Which I feel like they're going to have to if they keep their screen resolution as sort of low as it is on the Air right now.
Or did you guys spend time last week talking about naming conventions? I had a long conversation with Brad about this at the Apple event last week about the Air. Like I'm not a big fan of the fact that they call it the Air. Do they continue to call it the iPad Air? Is it the iPad Air 2? Does the Air just go away when that just kind of becomes the standard iPad? Apple has had really.
I mean, they really sort of just do what they want.
Yeah, exactly. And people in the past have complimented Apple's naming conventions because it's more simple. I mean, they're in a lot of ways kind of the company that came along and changed everything from being a HX ZP47 to just being the, you know, iPhone 1, iPhone 2. But year to year it changes. Sometimes it's the new iPad, sometimes it's the iPad 4. You know, now it's the iPad Air. iPad Air 2 sounds really bad.
I think the new iPad Air is what it's going to be.
Right.
Because they're probably not due for a drastic redesign next year either.
And they like their names to be simple and easily digested by consumers, you know?
But are they simple, or is it more confusing because there's no consistent standard across
No,
them?
I don't think that it's not consistent makes it confusing. I think it's still
for
simple.
us it does.
Right, for us because we're trying to keep track of it and we're writing posts and trying to compare it to
It's really annoying to put the
generations.
year in parentheses every time you write something.
But I mean, think about it. The average consumer isn't going to say, I have the iPad Air. They're going to say, I have an iPad.
I don't know
They're
about
not going
that.
to reference the year, the model, the processor.
They're not going to do that.
resolution.
They're not going to do that, but I think they'll save the air. I think when they're trying to impress people with their new device, they're going to
Sure.
save
If
the
you're a
iPad Air.
jerk and you think your technology is a class distinction.
Most people I know are jerks.
Are they?
Yeah.
It doesn't fall in line with your soul.
These iPad people. So having trouble recommending one of these devices over the other. What would you get given the choice?
Given the choice, between the Air and the...
Tomorrow, you've got to buy a new Apple laptop.
I might get the Air still.
Okay.
I think, kind of like hiking, I think if I'm at a trade show like CES or MWC, every bit of weight I can remove from my bag that I'm having on my shoulders for hours every day helps. I would still prefer the lightest machine with the best battery life, and I've been using the Air with the with this screen resolution, and it doesn't bother me. I mean, no, it's not as nice of a screen as the other one, but I'm okay with that, given what I do.
The Retina display really drains the battery in my experience. I mean, especially if you have brightness up over like 2 notches. It
not
just
on this
sucks.
new model,
Really?
not as much. I mean, we're talking about a difference between this Air on our battery test got something like 12 hours and 45 minutes. The MacBook Pro got maybe 11 hours and 15 minutes or 20 minutes or something. There's a difference, but at what point do you get diminishing returns, on the battery life?
and how often are you going to need an extra 15 minutes when you're already talking about 11 hours anyway, right? For most
I mean,
people.
with our trade show life, I wouldn't underestimate the need for a big battery. For me, it's more about the portability. It's
God
just,
help you if you have your computer on for
You know,
more than 12 hours up
with
once
our
during a
workflow,
day.
you know that we used to do more video processing on our own. Now we have some video guys who do it for us.
That's one thing I'll say in favor of the pros bringing the shows is video processing.
Sure.
You don't have to offset.
But I
any
rarely
video
do that
processing.
in my workflow anyway. So the biggest thing I'm doing is editing a whole bunch of photos at once in Photoshop. I can do that on the Air. I mean, maybe it would even be even faster on the Pro. It probably would be, but for my workflow anyway, and my threshold for heavy stuff, I would probably still go for the Air.
Speaking of video processing, have you guys played around with any of the new iLife apps?
No, I haven't.
I kind of really like the new iMovie.
Yeah? I haven't had to do any
they've
processing, so I don't...
they've completely changed, moved the UI, and it's really confusing the first time you use it. There's some back-end stuff that's going to be a little harder for people like us to do video compression stuff, some of the off-putting stuff. But in terms of consumer usage, it's the anti-shake stuff that they have on it. They have cuddle correction, sound correction, all these things built in. It's really cool.
That's nice, yeah.
Yeah. I did the, we'll talk about the Nook later in the show, but I did the Nook
yeah.
review on the new iMovie, and I
Interesting.
highly recommend it. I wanted to remind you that the Engadget Podcast continues to be brought to you by Chevrolet, dedicated to pushing the boundaries of automotive innovation to provide cleaner, more efficient, and better connected vehicles to enhance your driving experience. Chevrolet, find new roads.
That's a car company.
It is. And they're the sponsors of Expand.
Are they?
Which is coming up, and which Spike Lee is going to be at.
I just saw that on Twitter.
I didn't know that.
I'm going to try and be in his next movie. Me and Mira Sorvino.
Maybe Expand will be his next movie.
I hope so. Do you think so?
Probably.
Is it just a documentary following me? Is that
No,
what it's
he's
about?
probably
Being
casting
Joseph
for
Opie?
the Engadget movie.
Oh.
Who's going to play?
I wouldn't watch that movie.
Who's going to play you?
It's a lot of sadness. It's
Like
a lot of people sitting at home
I feel like
watching The Daily Show.
like a skinnier Vin Diesel, maybe.
Oh no.
Who would play Joseph Opie?
Winona Ryder.
The Spike. No,
Yes.
you're not. Wait, Winona Ryder's playing you?
Yeah.
Meh.
Yeah.
What era in Winona Ryder?
Beetlejuice.
A young Winona Ryder, a 12-year-old, a 12-year-old.
She wasn't 12. She was in her teens. She was legal.
Legal in what country?
The U.S. Wasn't she 18? She had to be 18.
Was she 18?
I'm sure.
She seemed young.
She's like in her 40s now, so.
Is she?
Yeah.
She looks
Yeah,
great.
she is.
Good job.
That's my
Winona.
contribution, just to confirm that.
Thank you.
Who would play Dana in Spike Lee?
I think we all know. A young Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I was
so
gonna say
his son
skinny Vin
Patrick
Diesel again.
probably.
I was hoping
Oh, you
Vin
could
Diesel
be-
would play all the roles.
Skinny Vin Diesel. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Did I spit on your face?
Hmm?
I laughed too hard.
Let's talk about the Samsung Galaxy around which Richard Lai actually had a chance to rock with his finger.
The most amazing thing about this hands-on is there's only one section where Richard is like, so the purpose of the curved screen is the silliest thing ever.
No, that's not entirely true. I mean,
pretty silly.
But here's what. So to describe it, I guess for those of you who don't know what it is, it's like a note, but except that you left
like
out in the sun.
Like a Note 3.
Yeah, which you left out in the sun, and it warped a little bit.
Right, in the middle.
So what is the purpose of the curved screen?
There's more purposes to it than I thought there was going to
So
be.
what I've gleaned from it so far is that if you put it down like this and it's like off and you tilt it forward, notifications will show up, like previews.
That's the thing that they've been touting all along. So yeah, so if you put it down, if you tip it with your finger, the screen will light up with a couple like time and a couple of other things, so you can check it really quickly, which, you know, I guess is kind of cool, but is not something that you necessarily need a curved phone to do. But what I will say is, you know, he played around with it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, he says it's actually a little bit nicer on the touch having the concave screen.
Right, and
with
it's
your
easier
finger.
to access things.
If people still talk on their phones, holding it up to your head makes a little bit more sense because it kind of contours around you. Probably feels a little bit better in your pocket than just having a 5-inch flat screen.
Am I correct that it's easier to read outside too?
That I did not.
I thought I had read that, but I could be wrong.
I don't know that I've. Somebody can tell us in chat. I don't know that I've seen that. I mean, obviously it's going to be the same display. I guess it's possible that you don't have as much of a surface area.
Like, what does it do to the reflections if you have sort of a concave
It's a good question.
surface?
I'm not entirely sure how that would affect the glare. But I mean, there are some purposes to it. But yeah, it's kind of a gimmick. I don't think that we're going to get curved screens across the Galaxy line anytime in the near future. But it's Samsung, right? I mean, it's Samsung's motto should be try anything once.
Basically, yeah.
Because why not? Because the technology's out there. They could create a curved. I think we're all waiting for the flexible screen now.
Yeah, that I would like to see.
But that's, I mean, that ends up being the main issue, and this was something I hadn't really thought that much about until I saw this review. And you know, Richard pulls the back off, and you see the battery. You can curve the screen, but you can't curve.
Well, it's a hands-on, not a review.
Apologies for this budget device.
It's not a budget device.
You know, he pulls the back off, and you can see the battery, and that's kind of what this comes down to, right? Is you can curve the screen, but you can't curve everything.
Well, you can mold batteries now. Companies can do that.
Yeah, but it's still, I mean, it's not going to be a fully flexible device anymore.
No, right.
Point.
You can't crinkle it up.
Yeah.
But you know what I think is interesting is it definitely highlights the difference between the way Apple approaches consumer technology and the way Samsung does, right? Like Samsung literally takes every idea they have in R&D, puts it in a cannon, lights the fuse, lets it explode and hit every market, retail shop, demo, price point, and where a company like Apple will hold back and say, we'll wait, we'll let this mature, we'll figure out a way to really implement it so it makes sense for the end user. Because to me, it's just an unnecessary gimmick. You know, who's really going to buy this phone right now? It's just a way to say
question.
first.
You know who's gonna buy this phone, because this phone is coming out, I think, first in Korea only.
So far, only Korea, yeah.
I bet a lot of Koreans are gonna buy this phone.
Well, I think Samsung and LG in general are very, very popular in their own home.
I think that the I don't want to say innovation so much as the novelty of it. I think it's going to get a lot of people excited.
Well, it's like the View, the 4.3-inch.
Oh, I thought you were talking about this show.
No, not
it's
the
like
show.
the View.
Nobody talks about it anymore.
When they brought Whoopi Goldberg on,
that show went down when they lost Debbie Matenopoulos.
I don't know who that is.
I know.
No, but this might again be a case of something where we see it doing really well in Samsung and then them bringing it elsewhere. You know, I can imagine people walking into a Best Buy and seeing this phone that looks slightly different from all the other phones and buying it. I think it could actually sell reasonably. I don't think it's going to end up being their primary driver, but I could actually see this being a reasonably successful phone for Samsung based on the fact that there's just not anything like it out there.
I'm not so convinced. I'm more excited about them bringing back the flip phone.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the one Samsung made for China. But
I think I saw that.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want it so badly.
Just for the sake of novelty?
Well, no, I think I love the fact that with a flip phone, if you wanted to dismiss somebody on a phone call, you just went like that and flip.
For
you
cattiness.
would like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What if you? But what if you've got a one of these new Samsung phones and you just boop, you tweak it?
No, I'd probably have to flick it.
Yeah.
Like shoot it across the way.
No.
It's not the same as whacking it in your hand and being like, yes. You're
I feel like you could have a good time rocking the phone,
I don't like to rock the boat.
playing Pog with your phone.
I'm not a cat.
Pog? What?
Yeah, cat's paw things.
Yes.
Like, I guess. I don't know.
I guess that's
I
true.
also don't like animals. So
There you go. This is if you're looking for a phone for your cat, this is definitely look at the new Samsung Galaxy Round. I briefly mentioned this earlier in the show. It was kind of a surprise to me, and I think most people.
They're still making Nooks. And that's
Yeah,
the
that Barnes and
surprise.
Noble still make. Well, I mean, so there was some, obviously Barnes and Noble has been having some issues with the hardware side of things, and I believe the news that came out a while ago is that they're no longer going to be manufacturing the tablets themselves. So they're probably going to be OEMing those guys. Never said they were going to get out of the e-reader business. In fact, if anything really surprised me about this is that it took so friggin' long for them to do it. So it's been Barnes & Noble was the first of the three major e-reader manufacturers to come out with a frontlit device. And is the last to come out with a second generation frontlit device.
Is this better than the Paperwhite, the new one?
The front lighting isn't just because I think everybody's got front lighting right now, and that was one of the issues with the first generation. And I think Barnes & Noble might have kind of realized and taken stock of the fact that maybe they came out with that a little bit too fast.
soon,
They came out with it before the other two companies, and the other two companies came out with just much better technology. So I think they took their time. That might be part of it. The fact that, again, there's been a lot of shakeups on the hardware end might be a part of it as well. It's a really nice device. It's super light. It's surprisingly light. I mean, it's lighter than the new Paperwhite, and you notice that the first time you pick it up. It's especially when you factor out special offers. It's a cheaper device. It's not bad looking. It's a white reader, which is kind of interesting. Everybody is just doing these matte black readers right now. I like the end button on front, which is the home button, can also be used to turn on the front lighting if you hold it down.
But they got rid of
But they got rid of the physical page buttons. They got rid of the concave back, and they got rid of the physical page turn
That's
buttons.
one of the things I told Amazon. I miss about. That's why I still love my Kindle too. It's because I love those physical buttons for navigation.
If you read, and Dana can attest this fact, if you read every e-reader review I've written in the past 2 years, they've all made mention of Barnes & Noble's physical page turn buttons.
I thought about this morning. I read your review on the or your hands-on on the subway.
Yeah, it's a bummer that they went in that direction, because that was something that was really setting them apart. And again, this is like pretty much any other hardware space at this point where you need something to set you apart from the competition. There's no reason to drop those.
No, there really isn't. Especially they were hidden behind the back. Yeah.
No, they were on the front.
Oh, they were on the
front?
front?
There were just two little slits on the front of the device that you can use it. Touch has gotten better, certainly, and these devices mostly have capacitive touches instead of infrared touch.
I still do not like.
No?
I can't get used to it. It grosses me out. There's like some sort of tactile sensation that I don't like the way it feels. Yeah.
It's better than infrared, though, when it comes to actually being accurate and reading how you're touching it. Yeah, it seems like a good device. I mean, if you're in the Nook ecosystem and you've been waiting for the new version, then
here you go.
I'm sure we'll have a review sometime in the near future, but
probably a couple of weeks. Can we say that conservatively? Month.
It is.
When
you
does
can
it ship?
order it on the site now, so
you can.
It should hopefully be soon.
Okay.
I would assume.
All right,
Yeah. No. The day the hands-on went up, it was available on the site.
Oh wow. Shipping or just available to pre-order?
I think shipping. Yeah. I think it should be. Or I think it should start shipping out to people in the very near future. Dana, you want to take this the Lenovo
Yoga. That's a new one.
Yoga.
Well, that's next. The Android tablet, which is a pretty cool looking device. I mean, Sony's got a way of, innovating new form factors.
Yeah.
Sony? This isn't
Lenovo.
Sony.
Lenovo. Apologies.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But Sony does. You're right.
Yes,
Sony
yes.
does.
Okay, yeah, so like the Yoga PC, sort of Lenovo's first convertible Ultrabook. It has a screen that can fold back, and you can use it in different modes. You can use it in sort of a regular tablet mode. You can use it in stand mode with the screen propped up. You can use it in what's called tilt mode, where you sort of lie it on the table with the sort of thing, that thing I'm referring to. It's a cylinder-shaped battery that doubles as a kickstand. So it has 18 hours of battery life, and also just helps prop up the tablet. So when it's in tilt mode, you can put it face up on the table, and it's at a slight angle. You okay there?
Yeah, no, it's just my phone made a fart sound.
So yeah, it's an interesting form factor for sure.
It's heavily skinned, isn't it?
It is heavily skinned to the point where, not to get too in the weeds, but it's Android, but there's no app drawer. You swipe from one home screen to the other to get to apps, just like you would on iOS. So that's how heavily skinned it is. So I think that's going to disappoint some of our readers. Maybe not the kind of mainstream users Lenovo is going after, and who would buy something for this price, or would be tempted by this price in the first place. It's $249 tablet if you go for the smaller 8-inch size.
It's not new for Lenovo to do away with the Android app drawer, though, is it? Or do they do it like inconsistently?
This is a fairly new interface for them that they've been putting on all of their Android devices, including the ones we saw at IFA back in September. Okay. So this isn't our first time seeing this, but just something for people to be aware of.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm wondering if people are sort of devoted to skins in the way that they are ecosystems. I mean, ecosystems make sense, right? Because when you jump from one device to another, you've got all your files, you've got everything stored in the cloud. But do people get like really excited about TouchWiz, and they have to stay in?
I think nobody gets really excited about
I mean,
TouchWiz. Android
is mature enough, and people have been using it long enough now that they're used to that, right? That they want that UI, that they don't want to jump into a heavily skinned UI. Certainly for the first couple generations, it might have made sense to do that. But to come out with a newly skinned version of Android that's not like, the Fire.
Well, what's the benefit to it, right? What is it adding?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they're trying to make it a little easier to use. Or
is there a benefit to what Lenovo does?
I think it's just appealing to people who are maybe new to Android, maybe have only used an iPad or an iOS device, and this is a little more inviting to them. I think that's probably the main benefit.
They should have a switcher, a little toggle, so you could turn it on and off. No.
Sure. Nice.
Yeah. I think in general that
no,
should
it's not a bad idea. I mean, that's something that they did with the new Fire, right? Is they had taken away the little app grid. So now you've still got that river that you had on the old one, the carousel, but if you swipe up, you've got something more akin to the Android grid. So yeah, makes sense to me. I don't know how many people would actually take advantage of that. Actually, you know what had that? Weirdly, that old PC tablet that we reviewed had that, because it's got kids mode and parents mode, and you can just switch between the two.
Okay, yeah.
So you can, and the idea was that in the standard Android configuration, you can use that to download all the apps and then port them over to the other side. So yeah, that's not a bad idea. Good job. You sell that to Lenovo.
I'm not the first to come up with it. Let's just put it that way.
Well,
but I mean, I'll take credit on the show right now.
Good job.
Yeah. Also having to do with Lenovo. Maybe we've missed the most interesting thing about this.
Blorg.
What's that?
Blorg.
Well, not the tablet, but that Ashton Kutcher is.
Oh yeah, we were
not
okay.
Just the spokesperson.
We'll skip to that, but yeah, not just this, but he's also a client.
Product engineer, apparently.
Oh boy, I'd like to see him in the R&D labs.
He really turned Nikon around, right?
With those terrible ads, yeah, I guess so. If you're a teenage girl. Who buys her cameras
Nikon
based on Ashton Kutcher.
There was like a Nikon earning report. Nikon's not doing all that great. Not that many more people are buying Nikon.
I don't really know in general what these celebrity glorified
especially when they're Ashton Kutcher, who is arguably a celebrity.
Is he? I think he's a bona fide celebrity.
That's what I'm saying. He's borderline. He's borderline celebrity.
He's bona fide. It's just.
Yeah, I think
you think so?
Yeah,
really? He was on that '70s show.
He was married to Demi Moore.
His tech cred is.
I don't think he's. I don't think he's.
He's apparently a deep investor in a lot of.
What? I mean, he was in that Steve Jobs movie that.
I don't think that qualifies.
Did that thing come out? I don't even know if that came out.
It may have, it may not have.
See, you don't even, nobody in this room even knows if that movie's come out.
It
He
did
was
come
on
out.
that 70s show. He was married to a famous lady.
Demi Moore, don't call her a famous lady,
She's
okay?
a famous lady.
She gave you some cinema gems.
Hey, I love
Nothing But Trouble.
I loved
Do you have
One
no
Crazy
respect?
Summer. I love One Crazy Summer as much as anybody.
She's not in One Crazy Summer.
Yeah.
Is she?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. She's
No, she's not. Right. Thank you. I
Isn't
knew
she
it.
what movie am I thinking of? She's the love
No,
interest. She's the
no,
guitar
no.
playing love interest. Not in One Crazy Summer?
When does she play guitar?
Oh man. Okay.
We
Wait.
do have this thing called Google.
I'm looking it up. John says no, and
It's not One Crazy Summer, yeah?
is it? Yeah.
I'm sorry, it is?
She's in it. Yes, she's in it.
I don't
John,
believe it.
see,
I'm gonna look it up.
because you were 45 when that movie came out, John. So I believe you.
Was she really?
She's like the hippie lady in One Crazy Summer.
Oh, no way.
Hmm.
I'm thinking of that other movie with that actor from the 80s that nobody can remember his name.
John Cusack.
Summer Break, I think it's
I
called.
have no idea
Oh,
what you guys
Summer
are talking
School.
about.
Summer School.
Yeah, with
That's
Mark
what I was
Harmon.
thinking of.
Everybody
Yes.
knows Mark Harmon.
I don't remember.
I
She
have
was not
no
in
idea what you
That
guys
was
are talking about.
that was what was the love
Please
interest in
move
that? That
Wasn't that-
Penelope? Was it Penelope Ann Miller?
No. Summer School. This is very.
It was one of those three named ladies in the 80s.
No, it was Kirstie Alley.
No, but then there was the
You
student.
guys are being lame.
Come on,
lame.
wait. This is
You
really
can't
important.
play. Courtney Thorne-Smith.
Courtney Thorne-Smith.
Bazoinga
There
from
we go.
Melrose Place.
Bazoinga,
There you
indeed.
go. I don't know,
Bazoinga.
I just say noises.
This show is brought to you by Bazoinga.com.
Bazoinga. You're welcome.
Yeah, Ashton Kutcher. Somebody pointed out to me recently that Alicia Keys didn't really do a lot to turn BlackBerry.
That was an
Well, she-
astute observation, whoever pointed that out.
She
Yeah.
embarrassed the S out of herself, tweeting about BlackBerry from her iPhone.
Bazoinga out of herself.
Twice. The Bazoingas. that's
Is
right.
there? I'll leave this up to let me open this up to chat and.
I mean, even John Legere, the CEO of T-Mobile US, embarrassed himself by being like, "I love my Galaxy Note 3," and said that on Twitter from his iPhone.
By the way, nobody in chat knew that Demi Moore was in One Crazy. So I just.
so we're
that
all
was me.
clear.
I want to open this up to chat, so I'm going to give this the 3 minutes that it takes for this to
Okay.
actually hit the internet. Can anybody think of an instance in which a celebrity spokesperson has actually helped sell tech devices?
I wish we had that music from game shows.
Not Lady
Isn't Bryan
Gaga.
Cranston doing voiceovers for the new Apple ad? Somebody had mentioned that to me.
I've read about it, but I don't have
Yeah.
television,
Is
so
he?
I can't verify.
I think so.
For which products?
There's the
5C
machine gun in the
maybe?
suitcase
Oh, I don't
product
know.
that
I
Apple
don't
makes.
know. I just see them at the gym when I have my headphones
Is
on,
it?
and I don't know.
How
what's going
close is
on
it
in
to a Walter White
captions.
voice?
I mean,
Because you wouldn't want Walter
it's
White.
not Heisenberg. Let's just say that. It's more of a Walter White. I can't think of. I mean, there's been a spate of celebrity. You know, there was the.
Well, there was Catherine Zeta-Jones
Oh.
at T-Mobile for forever.
Dr. Dre.
With Beats, yes, that is very successful. I see those.
There we go. There we go. Okay.
You
Because
answered
it
your own
makes
question,
sense.
You won.
Yeah,
It does.
It does make
It's a
sense.
perfect tie-in. Yeah.
In the way that when people think of ThinkPads, they think of Ashton Kutcher. I mean, these are
Oh,
celebrity.
I know. Zoe Deschanel for the iPhone, when she held the phone and asked Siri up against the window, "Is it raining outside?" That was a very good use
Also
of Siri. Cotton.
She sold a lot of cotton.
Yeah.
Okay, so it can happen, but I think
Yes, and
the,
very specific.
the consensus is that person has to be somehow directly
Their
related
industry has to line up.
to. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to sell Wonder Bread, or the Bimbo bread where they found the syringe. I feel like I'd be good for that. Edgar would know what I was talking about.
You in a little white bear suit?
What? Is it a white bear from
Yeah.
Bimbo? I don't think
It's
so.
a little white
A
bear.
Bimbo.
Look it up on the internet. I'm just dropping knowledge on you, and you don't believe a word.
Hey,
of it.
listen, at
You
least
think
I
would
know.
after the Demi Moore thing, you think you would take my word as gospel? What does that mean? What does that mean that he's their new product engineer? I mean that's just got to be a figurehead, right?
He's not going to be tinkering
He
with their actual
says,
designs.
Joanna Stern, formerly of Engadget and now with ABC News, did an interesting interview with Ashton Kutcher, and I'm sure he had talking points going into this. What I did not realize is that he actually has a degree in engineering. Not like he's going to actually be an engineer, like he's
the thing you don't know about me is that I played Steve Jobs.
But I mean, where did he get? Did he get that that degree while sitting in a trailer with like a tutor? I mean, how did he get this degree? What school did he go to? Come on.
I don't know, but I mean that makes me slightly more. You guys keep interrupting. Let me just. Can I call you out on that? I would be slightly more comfortable with him giving feedback if he actually did have the engineering degree. It'll be interesting to see if he actually makes the time to sort of go to their headquarters or wherever and help design.
He'll take the time to go and stand.
I think they'll do some clever PR with it, but
I think if anything in a case like this, I think the fact that he has like some little background in engineering is going to make things worse, because he's going to pretend like he knows what he's doing. He's going to become such a nuisance, such a pain in the ass because he has that degree. I played Steve Jobs and I have an engineering degree.
It helps that he seems to sincerely like gadgets, and I mean that. Lady Gaga was whatever she was, creative director of Polaroid. There was no evidence she really cared about gadgets or was an early adopter.
Likes her photos taken.
Yeah, no, but that was more. But that was more of an instance of like, let's not have her actually.
She wasn't integrated with the.
No, but let's just let's make him look a little weird.
Sure.
And she certainly has the skill to do that.
Or her House of Gaga, or the 40 other people that.
Here we go. Celebrity endorsements. I'm getting in chat. Got some celebrity endorsements. U2 for Apple. I think that's fair for those Apple. Those
Not
Apple
that Apple
iPods.
needed it.
But I think it's fair. I think it's a fair point.
I can't stand U2.
No, they're terrible.
They're
awful.
absolutely terrible.
Don't tell Terrence I said that. He'll murder me.
No, let's tell Terrence.
Robert Downey Jr. is a waste. True.
For
HTC. You don't remember that? Hold This Cat. This is very recent. Yeah.
No.
They spent a ton of money on Robert Downey Jr. See, people are bringing Mac versus PC. I don't think Justin Long or John Hodgman either qualify.
They do not qualify.
They were more famous after that.
That kind of put John Hodgman on the map, especially.
Drew Barrymore put Justin Long on the map.
And, well, Justin Long I still confuse with the Blue's Clues guy.
They are interchangeable.
Steve.
Creeper.
Steve Creeper.
Creepy.com.
Steve Creepy. Steve
Bazoinga.
Creeper was only.
Was it you who ended up at a party with the Blue's Clues guy, Joseph, and he, someone whispered to you that he doesn't like being reminded that he was on Blue's Clues?
Oh, that's a very possible story I could tell you.
Yeah, I met him at a Flaming Lips show.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I heard a different story. It didn't involve Flaming Lips.
No, he had to put out I met him backstage at a Flaming Lips show, and he had just put out a really bad record produced by one of the Flaming Lips.
Really?
Yeah. Huh. All right, so good job, Ashton Kutcher. I'm sure that the next yoga is going to be super exciting. Sony Smartwatch 2 review. What do you think?
It's it's sort of interesting that Sony's already on its second major smartwatch, when some companies are just getting into it or haven't gotten into it yet. So you might expect more of Sony. You would think that they'd have ironed out some kinks. It's a good device in many ways. At $200, it's actually cheaper than certain other devices, namely the Galaxy Gear. Mm-hmm. But we did run into some performance problems.
$200 seems like a pretty fair price point for a device like this.
I was thinking about this before. If you want me to have a smartwatch,
which I do,
you bundle that with the phone I'm buying and you give it to me for free, because I'm not paying extra for a thing that does exactly what my phone does, but with limited.
But they don't want you to have it if you're not paying for it.
No, give it to me for free.
They don't care if you have it if you haven't spent any money on it.
Every smartphone should come with a watch in the box. That's what they should do from now on. That's just how it should be. Like headphones, you'll get a watch instead of headphones.
I spoke to the Pebble CEO a couple weeks ago. No big deal.
NBD.
Just putting that out there.
SMH, IKR.
Smack my head. IKR?
I know, right? I had to Google it on Urban Dictionary once.
Yes. I spent a lot of time Googling. I spent a lot of time Googling web acronyms and typing stuff into Urban Dictionary. No, but the reason why, in a lot of ways, the reason why Pebble makes sense is because it's not trying to do that much. I mean, you run into a problem. You run into a lot of problems when you're talking about smartwatches. A lot of a lot of constraints. I mean, one is this one has what, like a 1.5 inch screen. There's only so much you can do.
They're very tiny screens, sure.
In a 1.5 inch screen. Certainly battery life is going to be an issue. All of these other things. There's all these hardware constraints based on the fact that it's just a watch. So what if you don't try to do as much, but you do a couple of things really well on it? I mean, that's why Pebble makes sense. That's why making a watch with like an e-ink display makes sense. Is you're not trying to convince people that they've got a smartphone on their watch or a small computer on their watch. It's just a nice complementary
But that's the direction
device.
that they're heading in. I mean,
we haven't seen anybody
if you want
who
to
can,
make it an attractive.
But we haven't seen
nailed the
anybody
notifications piece, and I don't think we've seen any company do it perfectly.
Well, so the smartwatch 2 is like iOS in that terrible way where even if you've gone into the apps and you've read all your notifications, that number of pending notifications still doesn't clear away, correct?
Right, so an email would, let's say, still show up as, a lot of this stuff would still show up as unread otherwise. And
that would make me crazy.
James was saying, luckily it sounds like you can customize this a bit, but he was saying Facebook and Twitter notifications actually ended up feeling spammy to him, which is an interesting problem. It is an interesting problem because what if there weren't enough notifications and you're not justifying this device?
So is there a way to just do like high priority notifications from certain people?
I think you can elect to, right? There was a way to
It's customizable to an
Okay.
extent, but
I can see that. I mean, I could certainly see every time I got an email it being really distracting, but if it's only, people in your important list in Gmail or something like that, it could be a cool feature.
But here's my problem with smartwatches in general, is that, I like
They're not free?
Well, they're not free, and I like the direction that Google was going with the active display notifications, right? Because for me, if I see a message preview on my wrist, I'm going to want to interact with it probably, more than likely, Or if I just want to glance at it, I don't understand why I can't just do that with my phone, which is, I don't see why we're fragmenting the usages, because I can take out my phone, which I'm probably holding anyway to listen to music or check Twitter or read Pocket or whatever, million other things you do. You have the notification, you glance at it quickly, you carry on, or you respond directly. You can't do that on your wrist. So why would I be like, oh, I have a message, let me go get my phone out and respond to it, or use a canned response?
I guess it's a rudeness factor comes into it. A lot of people.
But is it really rude anymore with phones?
Yeah, to talking to somebody to pull your phone. I mean, I'm sure that you do it. You've got a Pebble, right? I'm sorry.
Oh, go for it.
I was just gonna, John, you've got a Pebble? Has it changed your life? No?
John's saying no.
A little bit?
It changed Miriam's life.
Would you buy another one if yours breaks?
You can use words.
Harpo, yeah, speak up, Harpo. If it didn't cost as much money, you would?
I would strongly consider it, yeah.
What's the price point for you? Like what would you actually, if yours breaks today, what's the most amount of money you'd be willing to pay to get a new one?
$80.
$80 bucks? Under 100? That's a pretty fair price point.
I guess that's okay.
Yeah.
Let's bring it down to 75. I like that better.
Would you pay $80 for a smartwatch?
I would not.
You would
No.
not. Dana?
I might. That sounds fairly reasonable.
Are you interested in getting a smartwatch at this point?
I'm curious.
Yeah.
It's not high on my list of things to buy. Like we said, I would sooner get a Nexus 5 just to use the few times a year I go out of the country than get a smartwatch I can use every day.
I'm worried that it's going to be one of those things where because I haven't I've played around with the Pebble a little bit. I saw the Sony watch at IFA and the Galaxy Gear, but I'm worried that's one of those things that if Pebble were to say, hey Brian, test this out for a week, that I'd be like, oh crap, I need one of these things now.
You think so?
I don't know. No, I'm just saying
it's
it's
like gadget lust where you just want to have a new toy. Because remember I was telling you, I was talking to you that I was tempted to buy Pebble just because I wanted to buy something new.
Well, I'm saying this isn't gadget lust though. It's gadget lust is like I saw it and I want it, but this is one of those things where it's like, oh man, once I've had it on my wrist, I don't want to give it up.
I mean, I know Zach Koenig is he's like, take it or leave it, and he was a backer, so.
He was very enthusiastic about it at
initially,
first.
yeah.
The review was very positive. Yeah. So after months of usage, he's not that.
I think after all this time, he realizes that he's probably just going to take his Note 3 out or whatever giant size phone he uses now to take care of business.
All right. So still no compelling reason to buy a smartwatch at this point.
I'm saying no, or unless you pack it in the box.
I think that's pretty fair. Again, like even after speaking to the CEO of Pebble, and I asked him what is a killer app? Are we still waiting for the killer app? Or are these things just platforms? Or waiting for people to come out with cool products? He said, "Oh, notifications." And that notifications are $200 is a lot for notifications.
Yeah, I'd rather just have like the Google Glass implementation where like the notifications will just float above your eye, and you don't have to move your hands at all. That to me makes sense.
Wait, okay, this is interesting. I'm going to open this up to both of you. You assuming the price isn't wildly dissonant, you would buy Google Glass before a smartwatch?
Yeah, I don't see the usage. I don't see the need for. It's just too awkward, right? Because you're limiting the use of your hands immediately because you have this one. You're going to go like this, right? At least when you have a smartphone in one hand, you can still manipulate it with that thumb. What are you going to do with this other hand that's on your watch that you're just looking at? You still can't type on it because of the screen size. At least if you have Google Glass and you're just sitting there.
You can't really type on Google Glass.
No, you can't type on it, but if you're just sitting there and notification comes in and you just said it's just, auto scroll, you can just be like checking someone out on the train, reading your
here's the difference.
Tweets and
here's the difference to me between those two products is like you can wear the smartwatch and it can just be kind of like a fashion accessory. It could just look like a thing you're wearing.
Well, I think
Google Glass
will eventually be.
Eventually, I'm talking about right now. It looks like a dumb thing on your face.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think these are ready for mass consumption.
But I'm asking. Soon. But you would buy Glass.
I see that as way more useful just in general. I mean, for anything, if I wanted to do mapping and navigation, or to quickly like peruse my feed or previews of messages, that to me makes sense.
You also want the attention.
I don't want the attention. That actually is the one thing about it that freaks me out because I was jumped from my iPod back in the day when they first came out.
When we were in Berlin,
you're from Staten Island too.
Did you notice that Alexis Santos getting stopped everywhere in Berlin during IFA?
I didn't, but
for his Google Glass.
But I hung out with Tim when he had first got one too, and it was the same thing in the streets of New York.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But I don't know.
But that's how it was when I had my cell phone in 2001. I mean, I had people mobbing me.
2001?
Yeah, people would be like, "Can I see that? Can I use that? How is it?
What kind of weird future cell phone were you using in 2000? There were cell phones
I was
around
using
in 2001.
yeah, they were around, but not many people had them.
In 2001?
2001, yes, my friend.
I don't think that's true.
Yes. That is very, very true.
I think people had cell phones in 2001.
People did, but it wasn't as widespread, so people were still trying to be convinced.
Do they do that about your hat now?
What? No. In fact, I was wearing this hat when I was 13.
You really grew into it, Jess.
I did, thank you.
Dana, smartwatch or Google Glass?
Smartwatch.
Yeah, why?
I don't want the attention that comes with Google Glass, and
you'd rather go like this. Hey guys, what are you doing?
I don't find Google Glass enjoyable to use. I've used it a bit. Maybe I should actually live with it and come back to you. In the times I've used it, I did not find it especially intuitive. I didn't find it pleasant to use.
Yeah.
I didn't get that much benefit from it.
Well, I'm also not arguing for any of these technologies as they are right now. I'm thinking more in the future sense of when glass is more refined, when it's a tiny little sliver of a module.
This is an interesting point in that it seems easier to project the future of Google Glass than it does the smartwatch, right? I mean, I think we can all agree that there's probably something that's going to come along that's, a third-party developer or a piece of hardware that's going to make the smartwatch a more appealing proposition. Probably that's going to happen in the next couple of years. You can't really say what it is. With Glass, it's really easy to say.
You can see the way forward.
Yeah, what those things will be moving ahead. Victor Wu brings up an important point in chat, which is you won't get a ticket for wearing the watch, but you will get a ticket for wearing Google Glass, which is a thing now.
That's silly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like in-car entertainment systems are confusing enough.
Yeah,
that should give people a ticket.
But I think that ends up being one of the appeals of the smartwatch is that it's an existing thing. You know what I mean?
You would still have to look down at your wrist while you were driving. I mean, it's just as distracting.
People have worn watches in cars for
not to read off of
years.
Not to read off of their wrist. They're glancing at it.
You have to figure out what those Roman numerals mean.
Do you have a Tokyo flash?
Where those hands are.
There's
all sorts of things you have to decide. I only learned how to tell time on an analog clock within the last 2 years.
I learned how to count on an abacus.
Got one more bit that I wanted to talk about before the end of the show, and wanted to remind people in chat if they have any questions, you can send those in right now. You can do that through chat. You can do it on Twitter, @BHeater. I just wanted to mention my Twitter handle before the end of the show.
Yeah.
Final thing that I wanted to talk about, this is exciting news for frequent travelers such as ourselves, is the fact that the FAA issued a statement today basically greenlighting air carriers to allow people to use personal devices at any point during a flight.
I mean, it's great that they're officially making this, the rule. I mean, the carriers have to sort of start implementing it on their own. I think Delta was the first to go, right? They announced.
Well, yeah, it's gonna be a more difficult process than like there's kind of an approval process and all that, and you do have to go through the FAA.
I've been doing this anyway, and we all have. Nobody powers down their device. Nobody. Come on, be honest, people.
I do sometimes.
Dina, why? Why?
Must be a goody-goody.
Really?
Because the stewardesses are a pain.
And battery life.
I got into a heated argument with one of the flight attendants over the original the Kindle 2.
That's how you end up at Guantanamo, Joseph, is yelling at a flight attendant.
She kept telling me,
For the folks at home, Joseph almost always fights with somebody on a plane.
It's true.
It's usually a passenger, though, not a crew member.
It's true. I do have a lot of respect for the crews, but I was trying to explain to her that it was off, and it doesn't draw a charge until you change the page, and she was not having it. And I was like, shutting it off is not going to make any difference if I completely power it down. It's foolish. And she got very.
But are you talking about the difference difference between like fully shutting it off and just stowing it without shutting off?
Well, in the case of an actual like e-ink reader, it's different than say like a tablet or something like that.
Yeah.
Because it's not pulling a charge. If you're not actively like refreshing the page,
Sure.
it's not, and you don't have Wi-Fi on or something.
I mean, you're going to refresh the page in the time that it takes you to land or take off.
Yeah, but come on, is that really going to
I'm not saying that this is going to make the plane crash.
I know,
I'm
and
not
they
saying
clearly
that.
have decided that it doesn't, but I just think it's funny. I've never shut off my iPod. I've never shut off my tablet.
No, but
what always got me is that it was an unenforceable rule, or impossible to enforce completely, because think of all the times you did get away with not turning your thing off, or even putting it in airplane mode. That's the thing about rules, right? They're supposed to be enforceable, and this one was never totally. It was just sort of like they had to ask you, and you had to at least pretend you were complying.
But
no,
but again, what the distinction I'm making is is sitting with the Kindle and reading the Kindle versus just sticking it, like stowing it and not turning it off. I mean, that they will, if you're sitting there reading it, they're going to come by and take
oh yeah,
it
no,
away.
absolutely. But
so that to me is what's nice here, is because I want to it takes a lot of time to taxi. I know I'm
but that's the thing.
Reason,
but that was the sort of technicality in this rule, is that you still have to stow things in like the seat pocket for takeoff and landing. They don't have to be shut off, but they still have to be stowed. That was like the sort of like the little
fine
I was reading into that today. Yeah.
Just
they're
laptops,
still going to have
though?
to be stowed?
So you.
But I mean, like
when they're taking off, you'll
yeah.
still have to put it in the seat pocket, right? They don't want you actively using it, but you don't have to shut it off. Is what
they don't
saying.
want you using a Kindle while you're taking off.
Right, or like browsing on your
Well,
tablet.
that's no fun.
Yeah, that
I still do it. We're all gonna still do it. All you have to do, these are my tips and tricks. You get the blanket, you pretend you're really cold, and you get all your devices.
I do that, and I always think I'm subtle, and then someone calls me out on it.
Really?
Yeah.
No, and then you just put them underneath, and then when you know they're out of eyesight, you take them out. And
I
you
just
have fun.
want to read on my Kindle. That's
I know,
all I want.
I know. You're not trying to. I know.
I just want to read on my Kindle.
You should ride my airline.
Why is life so hard, Joseph?
Ask my dad. He always says
At least
such
you don't
is
get
life.
called ma'am when you get called out for it.
I do, and it makes me really.
They call me ma'am too. And
Yeah, it's weird. It's
I
actually
have to
worse
put my
when they
stuff
call me
away, and I
ma'am.
get called ma'am in the process.
Yeah.
I have a lady friend who gets called sir. She gets a little bit more upset
That
than
happens to
you.
me sometimes
Oh,
because of my
really?
pixie cut.
Oh, from behind?
It embarrasses people terribly when they realize they've made a mistake. It's actually kind of funny.
Then you use it to your advantage. You get free alcohol on the plane.
Yeah.
Because all men get free alcohol.
No, if they call her sir is what I'm saying.
Thing you don't know is guys get to drink for free on planes.
Do they?
Yep.
I just make friends
Male
and I
privilege.
get booze.
Yep.
Yeah. Is it time to say goodbye?
No questions in chat. We're running a little bit over, so we're gonna pull this thing to a close. I did, however, want to remind everybody before the end of the show that our sponsor for this episode has been Chevrolet. Also, the sponsor for Expand. You can find them at Chevrolet.com today.
They
That's
make
the website.
cars.
Find new roads. Chevrolet.
They make cars.
Joseph Volpe, J.R. Volpe.
J.R. Volpe. Yeah.
At twitter.org.
Sure.
At danawoman.reddit.com.
/ put the cookie down.
Find her on Reddit.
Put that cookie down.
Is that a kindergarten cop reference? Is that a kindergarten cop reference? Or
Jingle All the Way.
Jingle All the Way.
Even more of a classic.
It's not a tumor.
Not a tumor. That wasn't good, was it? No.
That was terrible.
I give myself like a 4. 4.3. 4.4. Kit Kat. What? Bam, bam, guns.
Listeners, guys, you should also go to Arnold Schwarzenegger's YouTube channel and see the videos he's made of himself shouting all of his famous lines.
Twitter.com
Yeah, he's
slash
done recent ones.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Do you think Arnold Schwarzenegger has too many characters to be a Twitter handle? Probably, right?
It's
It's a lot of letters in that name.
I don't know. I've only ever seen his son's Twitter account, so I don't know.
What, you got somewhere to be, John?
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I holding you up
Let's
with
talk
my
about-
knowledge?
Let's talk about Demi Moore's best. What's Demi Moore's best film?
Nothing But Trouble.
That's a terrible movie.
Oh, no, you know. Really?
Awful movie.
Really? I'm going to reevaluate our
The right
friendship
answer is
from now on.
striptease. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. at
No,
the
for the
Engadget
love of
Podcast.
money, Woody Harrelson.
We'll catch you next week.
Ciao. Chevrolet makes cars.